Hey, David Brewster here with a new episode of 3 for All. This is 3 Blues Saraceno licks from 1995, and this is technically the fourth 3 for All I put together for Blues Saraceno. There's also a Chordplay here on my channel, and some of the viewers out there might be wondering, like, wow, Brewster must really like Blues Saraceno. And yes, I do. I've been a huge fan since I was a teenager in high school. I actually saw Blues do a clinic at Guitar Center. That's back when it was still on Milwaukee Avenue in Chicago. But a great guitarist. He's been on the scene since around 1989. He released his first album, Never Look Back, that year. Also started working with Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker that year. He was 18 years old as the guitarist that replaced Clapton. Toured with them for a couple years, continued to issue more solo albums, did a bunch of session work for people like Cher and Kingdom Come and Taylor Dane and a whole bunch of people. But definitely a very interesting guitarist, and he's been very active behind the scenes with soundtrack work for film and television, video games, all sorts of stuff. Blues is the man. So I did recently post about Blues Saraceno on my Facebook page, and I had a lot of people that jumped in and started commenting and liking that post. And I was talking about the song Tommy Gun, and he basically played that during the clinic that I saw, at Guitar Center. But, definitely a very interesting guitarist, and it seems like a lot of players just never did the deep dive with blues. Like, they know his solo albums, Never Look Back, Plaid, and Hairpick, but they don't really know the other, albums that he appears on. The Devil You Know, Wicked Gonna Come, and some of that stuff. So here's an image with some essential, Blues Saraceno, including the Poison album he appeared on. But here's a good place to start. And then if you want to do a deep dive with Blues' music, you can actually search here on YouTube and just search his name and then start looking for images like this. I'm going to share another image with some album cover artwork and find those albums. And they have kind of like generic titles like Battle Rock and Swamp Rock or, that kind of stuff, Southern Rock and stuff. But look for these albums, do a search, on YouTube, and you'll find all this newer music that Blues has recorded and released. Whether it's, session works, for a movie or a TV show or commercial or something. You can find, tons of Blues Saraceno. You just have to dig a little bit more. So licks and ideas in this episode actually came from a guitar clinic in 1995 with Blues Saraceno, and I found it interesting because I saw a clinic of his in 92, which would have been around the Plaid time period. 95 would have been around the Hairpick time period. So it was kind of interesting to notice like what he played and what he was doing, and definitely very inspiring stuff. There's some great licks, lots of intense feel and stuff in these phrases, and some signature licks from Blues Saraceno. So here we go. All right, the first lick's this Crammed Legato lick, and he's throwing this bend and release in there too, and it's kind of unusual. It's an F sharp, and it's something like this. One more time. So we're in F sharp. Actually, all the licks in this lesson are in F sharp minor. And for this idea, basically Blues is bending and releasing this B note on the G. So you're going to basically bend that toward the floor too. And I know initially my hand and my forearm were kind of confused because I'm used to bending upward, toward the ceiling on the G string instead of bending downward toward the floor. And that's the first hurdle right there, because you can see him kind of pulling that string down. Something like that. And slowly, we're basically doing, so a bend and release that, that B to C sharp and back to that A, and then a pull off that F sharp to E on the D string. But it all happens like in a split second. And it has this kind of gallop kind of feel to it too. Like once you get going, it definitely has a flow and like a rhythmic, feel. Something like that. But you definitely have to start slow, and initially you might really have trouble doing that pull, downward instead of the push upward, with that bend. One more time, like this. One more time. And actually during this clinic, I could see Blues do different versions of that type of phrase. He did another version where it was exaggerated. Like that, like the initial bends kind of slower. And then he did 4 of them crammed in there. Something like that. But here's the clip, and check this phrase out, and if you watch the clinic, notice that he does this in other keys and in other songs too. Okay, next up's a very intense bending lick, and it's kind of a variation of a stock bending idea that's pretty common, but the variation kind of makes it unusual. Something like this. One more time. So right there, we're basically starting on this F sharp, and you're going to gradually bend that up a whole step to G sharp, right? And start adding some vibrato, and then he basically reaches over and grabs A on the high E, and then continues to bend that F sharp to G sharp. So your ear is hearing this kind of half step thing, but instead of doing it like that, he's doing it with that exaggerated bend on the B. So he's doing So it's really interesting to hear that phrase, because typically you would hear like the unison, right? Instead of going up, an extra, half step higher. So it's definitely kind of keeping you on your toes, and it's playing with your ear too, because you're hearing that kind of half step movement, but with that bend. All right, next up's a blurry legato phrase, and this is definitely a signature Blues Saraceno lick. Something like this. One more time. So he's definitely using the neck pickup there. It's got that kind of bassier tone. So we're basically starting with this partial arpeggio at the beginning. And you definitely hear this descending kind of pull-off pattern, and Blues is fretting it like that with his index, middle, and third, so he wasn't using his pinky, and I played it that way, during the demonstration there. So you could definitely use your pinky if you wanted to, like that. But I was doing it the Blues Saraceno way, like that. And then grab that B and go up a whole step with vibrato. And then you have this. One more time. Like this kind of finishing, phrase. Really cool lick. So really slow. And then, and that's interesting because you're coming down. Falling down the stairs, but you land on your feet. And notice how he rhythmically ends that lick. That's really cool. Okay, here's a bonus lick from this live footage, and this is a dominant pentatonic crammed lick. So we're still in F sharp, but now he's flirting with F sharp dominant pentatonic, like this. One more time. So we're basically in F sharp dominant pentatonic, which we have talked about dominant pentatonics here on the channel before, but that would be right here. Right? Just think F sharp minor pentatonic with a major third. Here's F sharp minor. Right? Raise all those A's to A sharp, and then magically you have F sharp dominant pentatonic. Like that. So he's basically starting here on this E, bending that up a whole step, and then he's catching that F sharp on the high E, and he's doing... So it's the bend, and then two picks, bend, two picks, bend, one pick, right? And then right here, it's all about the way he's putting those notes together. So he's starting with a quick pull-off, like that. Right? So think of the top part of that scale, but we're doing And we're also double picking certain notes. We're going to have another double pick note just in a second. Right there on that E note. And we're basically setting all this up so we can target, you know, that B note right there. So really slow, it's... Right? And a little faster. And then at tempo. And that's a tough lick, it's crammed in there. Definitely really cool. Alright, that's going to wrap this look at 3 Blues Saraceno licks from 1995. Definitely, I've been a Blues Saraceno fan since I was a teenager in high school. You know, huge influence on me. I love his music. I love the way he plays guitar. Great tone, great energy, great feel. The whole thing, you know, the phrasing, the melodies, everything. And he definitely is a slick guitarist. He can melt your face off, but that's not his focus. You know, he could have focused on that a long time ago, but as soon as he hit the scene, he was noticeably kind of different. You know, very melodic, very groove-based, you know, lots of feel and quirky phrases and stuff. And that, to me, is way more impressive than just running up and down the fretboard, you know, playing, you know, shred guitar lines and stuff like that. Yeah, technique and shredding is really cool, but it's not as meaningful or not as impactful, I think, as, you know, heartfelt music with a strong melody, a strong groove, great rhythms, you know, interesting chords and chord progressions and stuff. There's a much larger world than just shredding on the guitar. And I think a lot of players in today's world are missing that. They just kind of focus on the shred. And it's like, no, pay attention. There's a whole bunch of stuff floating around. But if you're only focused on the flamethrower shredding, you're going to miss a lot of that important stuff. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Night Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content and material. Thank you.